Hello Carrara users, this is Mark Bremer. Another Carrara user by the name Photo Joe had a question about creating a quick cityscape suitable for something in the distance so you could have your foreground action but have this idea of a large city in the background. Really easy to do in Carrara. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. In my scene right here I have a basic plane that I've inserted and I have 4 cubes. If you look in the front view here you can see I've got them of various heights. And it's just your stock cube. I've inserted a primitive with the size of 1 foot, and I did that just to give you an idea of how the measurements will work in this when we do it. So the first thing we'll want to do is to insert a replicator into our scene, and not any replicator but a surface replicator. So I'll select that, and that pops in at X and Y 0. The next thing is to go ahead and grab these 4 cubes and simply drag them underneath the surface replicator so they become a child of it. With that done, I'll select the surface replicator itself, double click on it. We can see the cubes are the replicated objects in here, and you can add them manually if you want to from within this interface. It's just faster to do it the other way. What we need to select is what we want these to replicate on, and I'm going to choose the only other object in the scene, the plane, and select OK. We can see in our preview window over here on the right hand side that they are showing up everywhere, and it doesn't look very cityscape-like at all, which is fine. We'll go ahead and correct that now. The one thing I want to adjust before we get into that is the minimum distance between the objects. Now, I pointed out that the cubes are 1 foot primitives, so I'm going to go ahead and increase this to about 1.5, and this will give us the illusion of street space in between the actual cubes when they get replicated at a maximum type of setting. I'll go ahead and bunch this up so we've got, well, maybe not that many. Let's go with about 400. They're filling up everything. By the time we're done, it won't look like a mess like this. We're going to choose to control these using a shader object. So I'll go ahead and select the shader, come into Edit Shader. Now the surface replicator only pays attention to white and black, but I want access to one of the features inside the shader replicator, which happens to be the pattern function of spherical gradient. So I'm going to go ahead and open multi-channel, and this gives me all the things we're used to seeing, but now in color I can come down to pattern functions, and we want spherical gradient. I select that, it shows up. It's very small in the scene right here, so I'm going to go ahead and increase the X scale and increase the Y scale a little bit, roughly equal. And we're starting to get a preview right now that all our buildings are beginning to congregate in the center of this plane, which is exactly what we want. Let's go ahead and go back to the assembly room, or actually, let me double click on the surface replicator again, and we'll pop into the modeling room for that. Now they're kind of scattered and waylaid here. The one way we can go ahead and change that real quickly is go to best, and they congregate a little bit more. It's replicating every one of the objects, or the 4 cubes that we've created. There are typically less high-rise buildings and more smaller buildings, so I try to stack my 3D geometry that way in that favor. But we can kind of see how it's playing out right now. If we pop back into the assembly room, we can see it is not real regular right here. And again, this is for a city at a distance. There are other tricks to use if you want an organized city for a close-up view. But if we come back to here and I go ahead and rotate my scene around a little bit, let's go ahead and just go to a single panel view, and I'll select the plane and we'll zoom into that by pressing 0 on the keyboard. A quick render will show us, well, we've got that showing up. Let me go ahead and tilt this a little bit more and show you a nice little shortcut that I happen to like for working with multi-processor cores when you do this. Let's go over to the render room, Command 5. I will turn on skylight. I will turn on indirect light. I actually have a bi-gradient as a background here and a solid color in the background. Also reduce my maximum ray depth to 4, which will speed things up. And for the system I've got, I like to speed things up by reducing the tile size down to 48. And this will take just a second to calculate, but then we'll see we get a really nice look going on. Super easy to create this type of city in the distance. Obviously texturing these objects make a huge difference in their believability for a long shot a little further away. That's how you create a quick cityscape with Carrara 8.